This video is to learn the basics of one-point perspective and also to learn the techniques used to do the assignment one-point perspective reproduction. On the freshman visual page of Google Classroom, you can find this assignment under classwork, and then linear perspective, one-point reproduction. And the details of the assignment are written right there, along with the reference image and an image with step-by-step instructions. I'm going to go ahead and go through this in a little bit more detail. So this is our reference image. I will be demonstrating it digitally, but the assignment is to do this in pencil on an 8.5 by 11 white piece of paper in graphite pencil. So please don't try to do this digitally. Do not print it out and trace it. It doesn't have to be exact, but it has to make sense. Now I'm going to go back to the beginning and just talk about one-point perspective. So if you are a person looking at an image, let's say that this is you right here, and this is the thing that you're looking at, anything where the face of it is parallel to the picture plane. So say that we have a box right here. If the front face of this box right here is parallel to the picture plane, then you would use one-point perspective. Let's move this back a little bit. For instance, let's say we have a viewer and this is your drawing right here, and say your viewer is looking this direction, and there are a few boxes that are the same size, and they're all six-sided boxes with all right angles. You can see if you look from this angle that all these boxes are just about the same size. But if you were to look from this guy's point of view, if this is your picture, the boxes, if this was the face of the first box, the boxes would get smaller as they go into the distance. And not only that, but they would overlap. You wouldn't see them all. Now, how we figure this out is like so. You have your horizon. The horizon is your eye level. So if we were to look at our guy from the side again, he's looking at the image. The horizon is right here, and it goes off around his head in infinity, so that when you look at it from this direction, if this was his head looking at it, it would be right here, and this is where his eyes would be. So let's get rid of the text here. And then if you have something that is all right angle object that is going away from you, the face of it will be facing you. So if these boxes are on the ground, the top edge will be completely horizontal. So if you're trying to make this on a piece of paper, you would want to line up your ruler so that this is exactly parallel to the edge of your paper. If this distance is 1 inch right here, then it has to be 1 inch on this side as well. And also, if you have a edge that's vertical, then it's completely vertical in your image. But I'll go all the way down here, but this is our image, and it goes beyond that. So if this is exactly, let's say, 4 inches right here, then it also has to be 4 inches right here. You don't necessarily have to measure that, but keep in mind that vertical lines have to be vertical in your image, and horizontal lines as well. And then, because your eye level right here is above the box, that means you see the top of it, and it will recede as it goes into the distance. So the point to which the edges of this recede is called the vanishing point. And in this case, there's just one of them. That's why it's called one-point perspective. So the edges of the top of this box will go towards the vanishing point. The top of this box will follow these lines, and then the back edge will be completely horizontal. Then the next box, if they're the same size, and they're lined up in line like this, will go horizontal like that. These edges will be completely vertical, but part of this will be hidden. You'll see the top edge going to the vanishing point, and so forth. And you could keep going like that. So these boxes are all theoretically the same size. So what if you have something that's above the vanishing point? The vertical lines are still completely vertical. The horizontal lines are still completely horizontal. And then if I want to create guidelines going to the vanishing point, and here you see if the object is above your eye level, then you see the bottom of it, like so. And you can probably guess what's coming next. If something is to the side of it, like a building or something like that, that starts below your eye level and goes above your eye level, then the vertical lines are still vertical, horizontal lines are still horizontal, and this other stuff here goes to the vanishing point. So everything that's horizontal, that's going away from you, that's in a straight line, will go to the vanishing point. And everything that's vertical or horizontal will be exactly vertical or horizontal. Now, that's the starting point right there. There are a couple of issues. One thing is, how do I measure distance, measure the width of something going into the distance? If I were to just draw a square right here and make another square the same size right next to it, I could measure this and see if that's exactly right. I could just measure it with a ruler. But if we're going into the distance, it's a little different. Say I wanted to draw railroad tracks and make sure that they were equidistant apart. So I've got the rails here. I've got, let's say, my first rail and my second rail. And those are completely horizontal. How am I going to make sure that there are equidistant rails going up the tracks here? Well, first of all, we have to find the center of this rectangle here. And you do that by connecting the corners with an X. So you know the center of this rectangle is right here. And again, let me remind you that this will be with a ruler and with a pencil and not digitally. So you have your center line here. You have your first and your second railroad tie. So if I want to find this next one, I go from the corner here through this spot right here where the second tie meets with the center line. I'll make a straight line through that point to this corner over here, and where this meets the rails here is where my next tie is going to be. And I can keep doing that into infinity, basically. And then you would erase all these guidelines, and there's other ways to make sure that the thickness of the ties are the same, but we're not going to bother with that right now. So what if I have a building with columns or windows, or if I have like telephone poles? Well, the same thing goes if you're going this way. If I have the side of a building that goes like this, I can find the center of the face of this building by connecting the corners and then connecting the center line to the vanishing point. And then if I want to divide this in half, I can go right through the center right here. I'm sort of doing the same thing I did before, but backwards. And if I want to go half of this, divide this again, I connect those corners, and so forth. And you can keep dividing stuff up as much as you need. Now, there are a couple ways to do divisions that are not divisible by 2. Let me just do one quick one. So now I have my thing divided in half vertically. If I want to divide it into 3, I can connect this corner and this corner, and instead of making a line in the center here, I can go from this line to where it crosses the other X, and then I can go up and down here, up and down here, and you can see that that divides it into 3. And there's ways to divide into 5 and 7 and whatnot too, but I'm not going to bother with that right now. So those are the basic things that you need to know. Other than that is ellipses. So if I just have a circle, that's not a great circle, but say that that's a perfect circle, but I lie it flat on the ground, it'll be an ellipse. So I look like that. And one that was, up here, let's say I had a big cylinder right here. One that was an equal amount of space above that would be the same size, and I'm just eyeballing it right here. But if it gets closer to your eye level, if it's right on the horizon, that circle will be just a flat line. And if it gets above, that ellipse will be deeper. And it goes like that all the way up and down. So that's something to keep in mind if you're doing cylindrical items. Now we're going to dive into your image here. So you're going to use these techniques that I've just laid out in order to reproduce in pencil this city image. As I said before, it doesn't have to be exact, but it has to make sense. The first thing that you want to do is find your horizon and your vanishing point. So what you want to do is find all of these spots where there's a horizontal line going to the vanishing point. And you just put lines on there. There's one right here, say the bottom of these windows right here. And let's say the edge of the curb right here. And the edge of this curb right here. Okay, so you can see that there is a vanishing point somewhere around here. It's not exact, but in our image we can make it even better. So the first thing you want to do when you're doing your assignment, look at the original here, and we found the vanishing point. The horizon is going to be basically a horizontal line that goes exactly through the vanishing point. So let's put that right here so we can see it. And so I'm going to try to reproduce this, and I'm not going to draw the whole thing. I'll probably just show you a few things about it. But if you've got your paper, you want to work big to small. So first of all, look at your reference image. You've got this border around it. So you can start with that. Use a ruler. I went a little bit over there, and right now I'm just kind of planning it out. You can clean it up later. So there's your border. And look at the big objects. Like if you start working details from one side of the image to the other, one problem that a lot of students have had is that they start over here and then they end up with these buildings that end right here, end up coming all the way almost to the middle, and then they don't have any space for anything else. So when you start out your image, just think about, you don't necessarily have to draw it, but think about, okay, this building is going to end about here, and my sidewalk's going to be here, this building's going to be right here, and this pointy turret thing is going to be right here, and then these buildings on the right will end right here, and so forth. And then look at your reference image, and I realize actually some of this stuff right over here I already put too far to the right. So I'm going to make it go more like right there and right here. I'm going to have my horizon and my vanishing point. And then you'll just start, you can do guidelines for everything and start carving it out from that. Make sure your vertical lines are completely vertical. There's like this, there's this turret right here. Make sure that the ellipse goes down like that when it's above, when it's below the skyline. Make sure it goes up like that when it's above the skyline, and so forth. Make sure that this steeple right here is right in the middle of your turret. Now let's go back. I'm gonna show you some problem areas on the reference image here. Get rid of all this. We have our vanishing point and horizon as a reference here. One thing that you're going to run into, probably the hardest thing, is this area over here. And let's go ahead, and I'm going to make a box right here going to the vanishing point. So these are just guidelines, and this will end somewhere around here. This is completely vertical. This is completely vertical. And I have a box right here that I can find the center of by connecting the corners. And so this is the center of that. As you can see, It goes right up to where the point of the roof and comes down through these middle windows. Make sure that the corners of this roof go to the vanishing point. You see how they make a straight line? It's a little bit off right here, but it's pretty close that they connect to the vanishing point. Second of all, you will create the shape of the interior of this facade here like that, but then come out a little bit this way, right here and right here. You see how that roof comes out a little bit from the top of that facade. And then make sure that it overlaps right here with this spire. You don't want to have your roof right here and then the spire of the turret to be sharing this corner. What you want instead, this spire is behind that. So make sure you have this and then overlap it right here like that. Now, how am I going to make this so that I want to have an even space on each side of this set of 3 windows, and I want the 3 windows to be the same size. Since you have the lower windows and the upper windows, they're all in vertical alignment. So let's just deal with one set of windows, and we'll make a rectangle that goes all the way to the vanishing point here. Well, we'll make this rectangle, and I'm going to connect the corners of this rectangle. And one thing that I'll tell you before we even get started is that this drawing is not really exact. So if you want to just eyeball it and can convince me that that it's correct, then it'll probably be as close as this is. But okay, we have, let's erase this for clarity, or let's take this out for clarity right now. We have the center line right here, and we have the center line going to the vanishing point. Let's go ahead and, so now we have this rectangle here. The first thing that we want to do is, and obviously you'll be working from a blank piece of paper, but I'm just going to use the image as a guide. We want to make sure that there's an equal amount of, we'll work from the outside in. We'll make sure that there's an equal amount of space on the side of these windows. So find the edge of this window right here, and then if you see where this cross going to the middle crosses this vertical line, you can make a line. If you go from here to the vanishing point, this spot right here will be, if you do a vertical line right there, that will create an equal space on both sides of the windows. And as you can see there, it's a little bit off of what the image is. So your drawing can actually be closer to perfect than this. And then we want the windows to be the same size. So we can do another vertical line. Let's ignore this eave right here. And so we'll do the same thing right here. We have this, we want this distance from here to here to equal this distance from here to here. So go back from this point to the vanishing point, and so where our third window should be. So we have the first and the third window. And then basically if I want to make this middle window the same size as this, at some point you might have to kind of just eyeball it, but I can, it's going to be really a little bit to the left of this, excuse me, a little bit to the right. and I can make these windows the same size. I can take this and make a sort of smaller version of the box right here, and then the line from this crossing this line is where the other side of that window will be. And if you hopefully connect the corners of this, the center should be the same. Now that's all a lot. I just did a whole bunch of stuff in a small amount of space, and like we said today in class, if it looks wrong, it's wrong. So either find some way to measure it, some better way to measure it, or just eyeball it. And then you can take those measurements that you just did and position your other windows the same, like so. As far as the height of the windows, that's parallel to the image plane. So you can just measure that with a ruler. If this is 2 inches right here, you can make this 2 inches right here, and so forth. And the same thing goes for horizontal distances. So that's what you want to do with those windows and these windows over here. And let's see, make sure that your ellipses are right. The edge of this will actually, you have to use an imaginary edge to this, make this go up through the middle to get where the top of that spire is. On these lines in the sidewalk here, it's just like I said before with the railroad tracks. So first of all, make sure that these are completely horizontal. That's one mistake that I've seen a few students make so far. Actually, let's just do it with this one up here. I can get my center line going to the vanishing point. Then I go from this corner through right here where it connects to the second line, this corner, through this to this corner, make another line right here, and then from this corner through this intersection right here to right here, make another line, and so forth. So that's a lot to do that for this whole thing. Make sure everything that's horizontal goes to the vanishing point. So even way up here, make sure that goes to the vanishing point. Make sure this goes to the vanishing point. And the other stuff, you can kind of eyeball it for the people. The people in this image are there's about 2 of them beneath the horizon. So say this person is about this tall, so really a little less than 2 of their height above them. Let's say, so this is, let's zoom in a little bit. This is the height of one person. It's 2 of those to the horizon above his head. So if you go down here, it should be the same thing. This person is closer, so it's 1. I might have made that one a little short. I'm just eyeballing it. It's about 2 of her height below the horizon. So you can decide where you want the person to be standing, divide that into 3, and this is how tall the person is. And it goes that as long as the person is standing on the ground, which all of these people are, that is how you'll figure the height. That's pretty much all for how to do this. Again, I was just demonstrating it in Photoshop. I would like you to please do it with a pencil on typing paper. Make sure that you, one other thing, don't forget to do like these little recesses in these windows. So these recesses in these windows have to go a little back, and the same thing on the other side. right here. This is actually kind of a mistake unless that's supposed to be diagonal, but if these are really horizontal, they should be completely horizontal. But make sure you get these windows going back. Okay, so that should keep you busy for a while, and I will have you have a video for you for the 2-point assignment shortly. So don't panic, just relax. If you want to use a different colored pencil to do your guidelines, I recommend a color erase pencil. Make sure that your pencil has an eraser on it, or else it'll be harder to erase than the graphite pencil, and you will have a hard time. If you want to do your guidelines on one piece of paper and then put another one on top of that and trace it, that's a good thing to do too. You want to do your guidelines digitally and then print that out as a reference. You can do that too, but the final image has to be in graphite pencil on paper. So I will close up there and go to 2-point in the next video, and good luck.